Welcome to Finance with JC, episode 5, why you can spend more in retirement than you think. Josh Clancy here, and I'm about to challenge everything you've been told about retirement spending. So, what if I told you that most people are being far too conservative with their retirement plans? Fear-based advice that you've probably been hearing might be forcing you to work for longer than you need to, and live far below your means in retirement. Most retirees could safely spend 20 to 30% more than they think they can, but they're so terrified about running out of money that they live like students would in the first year of university. Meanwhile, they've actually got quite a lot of money in their retirement pot. So, I'm going to show you why the traditional retirement planning advice is often wrong, and how spending actually changes in retirement, and the scientific approach to determining how much you can really afford to spend without jeopardising your financial security. So, this could literally change when and how you retire and what that lifestyle looks like in retirement. Okay. So there is something called the conservative trap. Psychological and mathematical errors that cause people to drastically underestimate their safe spending in retirement. So let's say, for example, we have a client who has £500,000 in their various retirement pots. They've heard of the 4% rule or the 3.5% rule, whatever rule you want to call it, safe withdrawal rate, whatever you want to call it. In this instance, it's 4. So they can safely spend 20 grand a year, but they're also terrified of market crashes and running out of money. So they decide to be more conservative. They go for 3% rate, 15 grand a year. What they don't realise is that by being overly conservative, they're essentially guaranteeing that they're going to die with a load of unspent money. They are living a diminished lifestyle for no good reason whatsoever. I see it really often with clients who are coming to me as they're approaching retirement. They're like, I need to know that I've had enough. Okay, my parents-in-law probably could retire now, but they actually fall into this trap as well, where they are just worried about not having enough. Okay, so it's our job really to show them that they can travel the world, they can spend more time with their children, grandchildren, enjoy their hobbies, and live the retirement that they work so hard to afford. And the irony here is that by being conservative, they're actually making the wrong choice financially and lifestyle-wise. So, what actually happens to spending in retirement? Okay, we've got a couple of different phases. Phase 1, the go-go years. This is where generally the retirees actually spend more than they did while working. Every day is a weekend. They tick off as many items as they can from the bucket list. They do the 6-month cruise. They travel. They take out a lot of hobbies. They do the home improvements. All the things that they couldn't do, that you couldn't do during your working years, they do it in the go-go years. The spending is temporary, and it's front-loaded into early retirement. Okay, so that's the go-go years. The next phase are the slow-go years, generally mid 70s, late 70s into your early 80s. Still spending money, not as much, you're not travelling as much, you're not buying as many things, your lifestyle just naturally becomes less expensive. It often declines, adjusted for inflation, 1%, 2% per year during that period, right? The third phase is the no-go years, late 80s onwards. Spending drops even further, apart from healthcare costs, where that actually starts to increase, but even with the higher healthcare expenses, total spending is usually less than what it was in early retirement. So what this means is that the traditional model of assuming constant spending as a flat line, separate up with inflation, it's wrong. Okay, most people need more money in early retirement and less as they get older. The standard retirement planning advice assumes you'll spend the same amount every year for 30 years, right? It's absolutely... A 65-year-old is not going to spend the same amount of money as a 95-year-old or a 90-year-old. It's just not going to happen, okay? That's where a planner can come in. We'll do the cash flow modelling for you and we'll show you like various different types and ways to take income. So the dynamic spending, I'll show you the maths, okay? I have done another video on this actually, but traditional advice says save enough so that 4% provides you with your annual income, and then withdraw the same inflation adjusted amount every year for 30 years. But what if instead of withdrawing a fixed amount, you withdraw a percentage of your current portfolio value each year? This is what we call dynamic spending. It can dramatically increase your sustainable spending rate. Okay, so let's use the same example as before. We have a client, or let's pretend that you retire with £500,000 in your retirement pot. You have a 4% withdrawal rate, which is £20,000 a year, regardless of portfolio performance. You withdraw 5% of whatever your portfolio is worth each year. So, year one, your portfolio is £500,000. You want to withdraw 5%, 25 grand. Okay. Year two, market goes up, 550. You withdraw 27,500. Third year, market steps down. Portfolio is worth 480. You withdraw 24. This approach virtually eliminates the risk of running out of money because you're always withdrawing a percentage of the value, never depleting the actual principal completely. So studies have shown that with dynamic spending, you can often withdraw 5 to 6% in early retirement, then adjust the income based on the portfolio performance. So this can actually increase your retirement spend by upwards of 20% compared to fixed withdrawal strategies. So yes, your income will fluctuate each year, but you're not going to be killed by market events and by taking too much out too soon. There's also tax advantages that go along with that. So obviously you can maximise your personal allowances, depending on what you hold as well. You might have your ISAs, your pensions, your offshore bonds, your investment accounts. You can draw from them at very, very specific times to make sure that you're maximising the tax efficiency of your retirement pot. Okay. When you're in retirement, your retirement income is likely to be lower than your peak working income, i.e. you're going to be in lower brackets and you don't pay national insurance on pension income or withdrawals. You've got your tax-free sources, so your ISA, your 25% from your pension. You can also have your personal income allowance. You've got your capital gains allowance, your dividend allowance as well. So when you're looking at capital gains against income, if you're withdrawing from a general investment account, you're probably going to be paying capital gains rather than income tax. What you can do strategically is you optimise which accounts to withdraw from each tax year to make sure that you're not needlessly paying tax. So that means that 30 grand of retirement income might provide you with the same lifestyle as 40 to 45 of working income. Most people completely underestimate the tax advantages when planning retirement spending. Okay, so this might sound counterintuitive, but mathematically it's true. The longer you might live, the more you can afford to spend in early retirement. Most retirement planning assumes that you'll live to 90, 95, or 100 just to be safe. This is what researchers call the longevity paradox. So if you're planning on living to 95 but you live to 85, you've underspent during your retirement. If you plan on living to 85 but actually live 95, you're going to run out of money or you're going to fall short in the final years. The solution is the dynamic planning, which is based on probabilities, not on worst case scenarios. Research shows that a 65-year-old couple have 50% chance of one spouse living to 90, 25% chance of one spouse living to 95, and 10% chance that one spouse lives to 100. So instead of planning for the 10% scenario, be planning for the 50-75% scenario with contingency plans for longer life. This approach allows much higher spending in the years when you're most likely to be alive, i.e. and healthy, obviously, 60s, 70s, early 80s, while having the reasonable protection for extreme longevity. So one of the biggest advantages that you have in retirement is that people ignore the flexibility. Flexibility can dramatically increase your spending rate, so why wouldn't you use that to your advantage? If money gets tight, and again, people forget about this, you're not always going to stay in your family home when you retire. As you get older, you're not going to need such a big property. You might want it, but you're not going to need it. If you downsize, and what would that create? That would create a cash injection. So there's things that you can do there. Again, you've got other areas, more extreme, but like equity release and things like that. You've got lifestyle flexibility as well. So you can adjust your lifestyle relatively easily in retirement. Cut back on travel, like I said, downsize your home, reduce discretionary spending. Don't give grandkids and kids as much for their birthdays and Christmas. I'm joking, but not really. Timing as well. You can time the major expenses so around market performance. So if the markets are down, using our example in the third year that we used before, maybe delay having the kitchen done. There's things like that that you can actually work with. Many retirees as well can generate additional income through part-time work, consulting, like non-exec director roles, monetizing hobbies. There's so much like that can be done just to prop up the income. So it means that we don't necessarily plan for the worst case scenario in every category simultaneously, but you can spend more knowing that you have multiple ways to adjust if circumstances were to change. Traditional retirement planning assumes you're completely inflexible, which leads to massive oversaving and underspending. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should throw caution to the wind. There are situations where a more conservative approach is definitely appropriate, okay? So, for example, if you can't or won't adjust your lifestyle, location or expenses based on your circumstances, then you need to have more conservative planning. Healthcare, if you have like a family history of expensive chronic conditions, then factor in higher healthcare costs into your planning. If you want to leave a legacy, a financial legacy behind for your family, again, spend less, okay, and put more aside or gift in your lifetime, okay, so you can see them enjoy that money, enjoy those gifts. Single people face higher longevity risk and have a little bit less flexibility. You could also argue to have more flexibility because they're only making decisions for one person. So like planning for a couple and planning for somebody else on their own is very, very different. You have your guaranteed pension income, which can cover like your basic expenses. You can be more aggressive with investment withdrawals, but like you need to make conscious decisions based on, again, I always say this, but based on your specific circumstances rather than like fear-based conservatism. Okay. For those that want a little bit more, okay, you got your bucket strategies, and I'm going to talk in another video around having almost a tax-free retirement. Okay, so you've got your time-based buckets: short, medium, long term. Okay, essentially it means that you can invest more aggressively and draw income from various different pots, and not pay hardly any tax on them. Then you've got your like bond laddering strategies, so creating a predictable income stream through laddered bonds, allowing more aggressive investing with the remaining funds. You've got your international tax planning as well. This will be for people that have assets in various different countries that will be taxable if they're essentially if they retire in the UK. You've then got like the estate planning side of things as well, so like how can you optimize estate planning, pass well through generations, but also not leave yourself short. Okay, all of these require professional advice and guidance, but they can actually increase sustainable spending in most cases. If you're planning retirement based on fear and worst case scenarios, you're probably not going to have the retirement that you've been wanting to have, and you're going to live below your means for no good reason. That's the harsh reality of this. The retirement planning industry has scared people into massive oversaving and underspending. While some conservatism is prudent, extreme conservatism can rob you of the retirement lifestyle that you've worked for decades. You've worked so hard that you can actually afford it. You have more flexibility, you have more ways that you can mitigate tax, you have more spending capacity than what you've been told. If you maximise the advantages that I've discussed in this video, you will have a great retirement. And the difference between fear-based planning and optimised retirement planning can be hundreds of thousands of pounds in additional spending money in your lifetime. That's not just money, right? That's travel, experiences, helping family, pursuing passions, living the retirement that you actually deserve. Critical point is that it's not about being reckless or ignoring risks. It's about accurate risk assessment, sophisticated planning, making informed decisions based on your specific situation rather than the standard generic fear-based advice. If you're tired of planning for a retirement of beans on toast when you could afford champagne and caviar, it's time for a different approach. So I urge you to have a really long think about how you can best optimise your retirement. You can most likely spend more than you think. Okay, so don't let that scaremongering and press about the retirement crisis and things like that ruin what could potentially be a very enjoyable retirement. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time.